physical, the body. Then in the middle, breath, and then you have the mind. In order for the body and mind to feel a deeper connection and harmony, the breath must be very well structured. I've observed that if the breath is not mastered, we can be practitioners of yoga, we can be instructors of yoga, but we may not have the clarity or the joy that we are supposed to achieve when we practice yoga. So, the fundamental of the mind's growth or the fundamental of a yogic mind is that it is happy most of the time, but we do not say that I am going to achieve a state where I am happy all the time. You have heard the saying, right? A healthy body produces a healthy mind. Now coming back, how do we produce a healthy body? How do we ascertain that we are creating a body which is healthy, which not only makes us feel physically healthy but also emotionally steady, stable, and intellectually clear? This question is answered by bringing the fundamental of breath. Once we bring the breath inside, we would be able to fine-tune both the physical and the mental. Now the breath and the mind is in the vehicle of the body. The body is the most important foundation of our existence. But we cannot speak about the mind and the breath without speaking about the body. In the practice of yoga is mindfulness. I am aware. How do I move? When I am moving from one asana to the next asana, how am I moving? What is my consciousness? How aware I am of the movements. Even the simple movements like stretching the fingers, inhaling, pause, exhaling, and pause. Breathing in and breathing out. See, even when I am just talking to you and showing you inhale, pause, exhale, pause, we immediately feel so calm, isn't it? Therefore, the structure of asanas within the framework of breath has to be very strongly emphasized. All the asanas, every single asana can be structured with the breath. In the traditional Chinese structure of self-physical development, they have the word Qi. In the traditional yogic or Indian practices, they have the word prana. In the Shinto tradition, Japanese tradition, they have the word ki. So like this, you find that many of the ancient traditions, they have spoken about internal power. Even in the Malay art of self-defense like Sila, they have this word tenaga haya. So all of this is speaking about internal force. Now, for example, let's say if I want to do Baka Asana, it is not only a kind of the physical strength. Again, I have to qualify. I'm not doing physical strengthening, calisthenics. No, I'm just doing the simple, very traditional Hatha Yoga. But for me to stabilize in many of the advanced asanas is only because I coordinate with the breath. So, with the breath, let's say I'm going to do the Bakasana. So I go now and I'm already connecting with my breath. Within the breath is what the ancients call as Chi, as Prana, as Ki, as Tanagaya, the internal force. Now, my mind has to be focused. If my mind is not focused, then the extraction of what we call as prana or the internal force, it is not a myth. It's not some kind of superstition. No, it's energy. Science tells us that our entire existence is based on energy. That's what I'm talking about, energy. But the ancients called it in a different name, and we respect that tradition. So chi, prana, ki, internal force, pure force, finer force. So now I go and I'm focused on my breath. I'm coordinating the breath. And when I do this, the breathing is not slow and fast. I'm not doing, it's slowing down. My mind is calm. Many of the asanas that you do and master, you need to have a calm mind. In order to have a calm mind, the breath has to be slower, deeper, longer, and we must be able to master the pauses at the end and the beginning of the breath. So now I go in. Before I go in, already I'm engaging my mind, I'm focused on my breath, I'm breathing slow and deep, and then I go into the asana. And I'm also teaching. I teach almost every other day. So I'm teaching, I'm talking, it consumes a lot of energy, but I'm focused on my breath, and I tell my students, bring the legs, the left leg on the right side, bring your right hand under the left leg, focus on the breath, and then focus on balancing. Inhale, hold the breath, and slowly lift and stretch. And hold the breath. And then come down, exhale, and observe the breath. Now I didn't say that when you go in and then do 3 breaths. You go in and then do 3 breaths. Inhale, exhale, no. If we do that, the mind is distracted. It becomes a little bit more agitated. So whenever we do any asanas, when you go in, when you exhale, hold the breath according to capacity, or you can do normal breathing. But do not go down and do 3 breaths. If they go down and do 3 breaths, it does not allow one to have a state of mind which is calmer. During the asana practice, we do not say exhale, go, and then stretch and do 3 deep breaths. Pressure will shoot up. Remember, with the semi-inversion, asking the students, now perform 3 deep breaths, pressure shoots up. We should never ever in the practice of Hatha Yoga say 3 deep breaths. You can only say 2 things. Exhale down, hold the breath according to capacity, or exhale, hold the breath, and then if you are unable to, just practice normal breathing. Normal breathing. And then at the end, inhale, come up and do the other side. So in the concept of yoga, the principles of breathing are very, very clear. Inhalation, puraka, holding the breath, and then exhalation, rechaka, and hold the breath. In the practice of asanas, this has to be linked in. So how is it? Inhale, hold the breath, kumbhaka. Exhale, hold the breath, kumbhaka. How is the inhalation? Long and beautiful. It's an art. When you perform yoga, it's an art. But what is happening inside your body and your breath and your mind is science. So it's a combination of the performing arts and science coming together. Breathing in beautifully, and it becomes not so beautiful when it is short. Inhale, it's not beautiful anymore. Exhale, not beautiful anymore. Inhale, hold the breath, exhale, hold the breath. I've explained to you how the inhalation and the exhalation are. I'll explain to you the holding process. Now Kumbhaka, Bahir Kumbhaka, internal breath, Antar Kumbhaka, internal breath, and Bahir Kumbhaka, external breath. Holding the breath only according to capacity. Almost all the asanas have that structure incorporated within it. Let me show you the spinal twist. Ardha Matsyendrasana. Starting position, normal breathing. When we are going to the posture, we are already aligning ourselves with the breath. Not only the body is aligning, the breath is being aligned, and when the body and the breath aligns, what happens to the mind? It also becomes aligned, right? Body aligned, breath aligned, mind is aligned. But if I do this and I don't explain to my students about the breath, I am also not concerned about the breath, then I can be thinking about some issues and problems. Body is doing, breath is somewhere, and mind is somewhere, only body. Yeah, of course you become flexible, you can do so many asanas, but the mind is not flexible. The mind is not able to find solutions. Body flexible, mind flexible is the objective of yoga. So from here, I'm already ready now, and then I'm now ready. I inhale first, and then I exhale. I exhale, I turn, I squeeze, I exhale, I turn, I squeeze, and then I hold according to my capacity. And if I feel that I want to do a bit more longer, the twist, then I would allow the breathing to continue in this position. Continue. Then in this position, I feel that I want to do a bit more deeper, then I will exhale. And if I want to do a lock, and then I exhale deeper and I stretch. Without the exhalation, the depth does not arise. I'm not able to actually push the body and squeeze the body a bit more deeper because the stomach may still have air. So I become very sensitive to the flow of air inside my body. Just as I am very sensitive and become aware of the lower lobes, middle and upper lobes. So the sensitivity arises when we are able to bring the knowledge that yoga has to have these three structures incorporated very deeply right from the beginning. So where is the beginning? The beginning is Hatha Yoga. Now what is this Ha and Ta in the fundamental of breath and mind? So Ha and Ta is the balancing of these two forces in the body. The two forces of Yang and Yin, and the left side and the right side. What are the four aspects of breath? Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. When we bring the structure of breathing into the component of your practice, including your mind, becomes much more calmer. This is where the mind comes into the evolution. Now you want to invest your time in the practice, in any practice, you must demand that that practice gives you improvement in the mind. And the improvement in the mind is the coordination between your emotional state and your intellectual state. That one great philosopher by the name of Bertrand Russell, he mentioned this, and I'm very fascinated with this particular saying because it is something which is very connected with yoga. He said that the development of the intellect without the development of wisdom or emotional development is the development of sorrow. We don't want that, and yoga can give you this gift. Yoga can give you the gift of the development of the intellect and the development of the emotions, equally important, by the foundation of breathing incorporated into your practice and into your... I want to ask you a question which you don't have to reply. Are you incorporating the fundamentals of breathing in, holding the breath, or allowing the breath to be normal at this point, exhaling, holding the breath for a while and allowing the breath to be normal in all your own practice and your teaching? If we have not been structuring the breath in our own practice, in our teaching, we have missed 70% of the benefits of yoga for the student and for yourself. We can live without food for 3 weeks. We can live without water for 3 days. We cannot live more than 3 minutes without the breath. So which means the most important component of your existence is your breath. Without the breath, we will not be able to really improve and restructure our system. There is already one. All the yogas, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, all of these promise that by practicing, just by practicing, not even reading about it, not even hearing me talk about this or somebody talking about it, just by practicing in the proper context. Now, your whole life you may need not read any book or you may not hear anyone talking to you, but if you practice in the way which I am describing to you, that with awareness, with incorporating the breath, mindful, you would at one point attain a state of clarity that would give you a glimpse of things to come. Things to come means the evolution that you will feel in your practice, the growth that you can experience in your life. Yoga is an art, as I mentioned, is a performance of an art, but with lots of scientific benefits. You would fundamentally affect a change in your personality just with the practice. But incorporating the breath and mindfulness, you would feel that you are becoming a more stable, structured, centered individual. Now let's look at the breath component now. Right now, please check your nostrils. Are both nostrils clear or one is stuck and the other is partially blocked? Check. Okay, block one and then check. Is it fully clear? And then you check the other side. Or one is partially blocked. Or both blocked. Both blocked, not good. Right? So you can see that you have different experiences. Some will say, oh, partially blocked and all that. So since yoga, the asanas depend so much on the clarity of the breath, now you can understand why Jalaneti is so important, an integral part of our practice, because when you do this, when you do the Jalaneti, your nostrils are clear, and when we practice, we are able to receive the full support of the inhalation and exhalation. There must be real optimization of the breath. Without the optimization of the breath, the asana would be labored. If the asanas are labored because of the lack of proper breathing, then we would be putting undue stress in our system, leading from aerobic to anaerobic. That means not enough oxygenation in the body, and when we forget about the breath and we are doing it very fast and very furious and fast and then quick and not practicing proper breathing, and then continuously doing it like a kind of a physical fast moving exercise, it will lead to an anaerobic state, which means the internal organs would be deprived of oxygen. Your liver needs oxygen, your heart needs oxygen, your brain needs oxygen. But if you are depriving it because of lack of the breathing process, then what will happen is that the body's cellular system will break down, leading to anaerobic, that it will start to pull the oxygen that is needed from the muscles. There you get an accumulation of lactic acid. And the accumulation of lactic acid, next day you have sore muscles, which is not good. The concept of yoga is therapy. The concept of yoga is healing. The concept of yoga is rejuvenation. The concept of yoga is enlightenment of consciousness, body, breath and mind. The mind cannot be independent without personality development. You cannot have a very smart, intelligent mind without having a very beautiful, stable, structured personality. You have your convictions and you work towards this. The concept of mind in yoga is stability. So you ask yourself, how stable am I? But whatever the answer is, it's fine because we are in a journey. The right way of doing pranayama is to do it in a moderate way, just like how we do the asanas in a moderate way. I'm saying it can be a beginner's asana, it can be an intermediate asana, it can be an advanced asana, it can be a super advanced asana. But the way you approach is stable and calm. At all times, remember that you want to avoid injury for yourself and your students. It is very easy to get injured, not because of yoga. Yoga is a therapeutic art, but because the way we approach, it's not moderate anymore. The way we approach is over enthusiastic and we can get injured. And we don't want to do that. I have seen students who get injured not because of the asana, is because the way they approach it was a bit aggressive. So even if it is a super advanced asana, calm yourself, stabilize your mind and approach it and it will be a beautiful experience. Also in the same context of how we approach pranayama. If you look at the YouTubes, I think we can learn a lot from YouTubes, from books and all that, but the guiding factor in learning from a non-personal kind of approach is to exercise moderation. Now Kapalabhati is like this. And breathing out. Only breathing out. I'm going to do 10 times breathing out. That's how we approach pranayama. If I want to do Bhastrika, moderate. If I want to go a bit speed, a bit faster, still moderate. I can go fast, I can go slow. Faster? Faster? Can. But the whole approach is moderate. I can go fast, I can go slow, I can go super speed, but my approach is stable. But if the breathing in some of the YouTubes which some of my students share with me is that it is so aggressive, it is like, or using that, or some kind of gesture where it is, I can tell you the pressure would shoot up. Number one, it is just too aggressive. This kind of approach to the breath, I would scale it as very extremely risky because your mucous membranes can rupture and you can bleed and your pressure would increase. This kind of breathing techniques, no matter how fascinating it looks on YouTube or when somebody is performing, I can tell you long term it is not going to be helpful. The approach of yoga to the body is calm, moderate, no matter how easy or difficult it is, I can approach it in this way. The approach of breathing mechanism is the same way I approach it with a steady mind. That's how we do. And how long do we hold the breath? I'm going to inhale, hold the breath, exhale, hold the breath. Now this holding the breath, only according to your capacity. If you look at the book, it says breathe in 9 seconds, hold the breath 18 seconds or 64 seconds times 4 times 8. You're taking a big risk because the breath is a very subtle energy. It's a very subtle force. Subtle means soft force. You need to approach it in a very soft manner. Maybe practitioners who have been practicing, let's say I've been practicing for 30 years. I would be able to take it to the next level slowly over a period of time. Over a period of time, every 6 months or 8 months or 2 years, I make it a bit more advanced, slowly, and then I check how is my breath. Is there any palpitation? Am I short of breath? Is the breath a bit disturbed because of my practice and not because of the practice, or is it because of the way I am moving into it? At one time, there were a lot of people who had some breathing issues and they came to class for therapy. I asked them why. They said that they studied the book about pranayama, and that book said that they have to inhale 16 seconds, hold the breath for 64 seconds, and then exhale for 32 seconds and hold the breath out for another 34 seconds. They could have died, man. Not because of the pranayama, but because the way they did it. They had lots of breathing problems after that. The books are written for experts. Hatha Yoga Pradipika is written for experts. People who have been practicing for years, for decades. Hatha Yoga Pradipika, written 800 years ago by Swatmarama, is for people who are practitioners. Hatha Ratnavali is for practitioners. And they say that you have been practicing. They will tell you it is for the adepts. And for the adepts, in 6 months, you will attain siddhahood or perfection. We are talking about people who have been practicing for 30 years. And then we just see it and then we want to do it. No wonder so many people claim that they are injured because of yoga. But on the contrary, yoga is an art of healing. So, if the approach to yoga, physical exercises is 50% caution, for breathing it has to be 90%. You really have to take care of how you structure the breathing practices. Would you incorporate this as part of your daily practice? Please do so. Otherwise, you are missing one of the main and most important tools for self-development. I can assure you that by the practices of the physical art of Hatha Yoga, and especially by the practice of pranayama, your self-development will shoot up faster than any other programs, because you are engaging the most important component of your being, your breath. Kabir wrote about the breath. Kabir, this great philosopher and enlightened being, he spoke, and a great poet, he spoke about finding enlightenment through the breath. So, if your interest is self-development and you want to attain a kind of a super conscious state, delta waves, you want to attain subconscious control, you want to manifest your visualizations, you want to be successful materially, you want to attract the best relationship, the key is your breath. You have the tools. You develop your mastery over your breathing capacities. You have control over your mind's potential. In the last century, I think it was 120 years ago, where this particular yogi by the name of Vivekananda, and he was a firm believer in the power of breath. He wrote commentaries on Raja Yoga, how powerful the mind is. When you approach the mind, please do not force the mind, number one. Number two, don't entertain all the fancies and whims and fancies of the mind, which you can just watch. When you are incorporating awareness or mindfulness, watch the mind. Observe the mind. Be neutral to the mind. Meaning, don't fight and don't be overly friendly. Just be neutral. Because there's so many things that has been programmed into the mind. So when you study the mind, when you are observing the mind, you need to be very neutral and allow yourself some time to see that you learn about how the mind is behaving. This concept of mindfulness, I have not brought the subject matter of meditation. But before we start meditation, it is to understand how the mind is engaged and working. Then when we close our eyes, we are able to see the thoughts as forms of conditionings, and I can make changes to the mind. When this negative thought comes, in the path of meditation, I close my eyes and then I change. I say, no, this seems to be this seems to be a wrong way of thinking. I should not have this negative thought or this hatred or this kind of prejudice. No, I should not. I should have a good self-esteem. I should also not only have respect for myself, but also respect for others. I should also feel connected with everybody else in a very positive way, connected to me, to my family, and then to society, to humanity, to nature, and continue to do this rehabilitation of the mind. Bring the mind to a state of naturalist. We go back to the first thing, the first concept, naturalist and universalist. This is the mind of a yogi. The mind of a yogi is of a naturalist and a universalist. Love all, harmony with everyone, harmony with humanity, harmony with nature, harmony within. The way we speak, the way you conduct yourself, the way you teach, the way you bring yourself as a peacemaker, as a lover of humanity, as nature, makes you the yogi that you want to be. This is the definition of a yogi, a person who is able to practice physically the right way of exercising, the right way of structured breathing, and the right way of thinking and harnessing the power of the mind. We have unlimited potential. Do not think even for a second that yoga is just some kind of exercise. That you, with your practice and your awareness and your ability, you can not only change your life, but the lives of the people you love most and contribute to this society, humanity, and nature. Thank you. Namaskar.